Runners have no personality, according to this article in the Telegraph by British journalist and sociopath Hannah Betts. If you're striking out on a run or jog this morning, you're not looking after your body. You're suffering from a paucity of personality and a fixation fueled by self-appointed social media experts. While the entire piece is an exercise in pointless nastiness, I am kind of obsessed with it. It is the creme de la creme of everything that's wrong with modern opinion writing.
I don't think I could live without you.
Style over substance, thesaurus-toting nonsense that's written to make young people feel bad for exercising and apparently drinking water. Today, we're going to dismantle this post-Jalfrezi bowel movement of an article. We're going to look at the actual history of running, the science of Gen Z versus Gen X health, and most importantly, examine the devastating hypocrisy of the woman behind the keyboard. In fact, the most hilarious damning part comes right at the end of the article, and it is a masterclass in enviousness and spite. So, Piers Morgan, if you are watching, take note.
Obviously.
I did a piece this week about poor Gen Z. They're all going running a lot, and they've all got 50-something knee injuries. I mean, that's not sexy. That's sort of sad.
This poorly formulated sentence is literally Hannah's entire argument. But to pad out a needless 800 words, earn a flat fee, and obscure the fact that she has absolutely nothing to say, she uses countless words that haven't seen the light of day since 1596's The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. The subheading reads, "This is less about being addicted to exercise and more overcompensating for a paucity in personality." For those of you that didn't spread butter and jam on a copy of the Merriam-Webster Thesaurus for breakfast this morning, paucity is a synonym for lack of or shortage. Perhaps the average Telegraph reader knows exactly the definition of the word paucity and can cite its Latinate roots. After all, what private school alumni couldn't?
Are you upper class? I'm just frightfully.
They're probably sitting there now wondering what the hell happened to the youth of today.
I think Generation Z should be less Mr. Beast and more Lord Byron nowadays.
This opening salvo works as a perfect microcosm for everything that's wrong with the article. It's style over substance at its worst. A woman who's been commissioned to write a paltry 800-word column and from its outset has so little to say, and so vaguely too, that she must pad out her word count with needless baubles. Hannah, you're padding the cell within which you scream for release from the straitjacket of mediocrity. And this isn't even the thickest thing she's got to say. In about 400 words, she tries to use the story of Marathon as a health warning, but gets pretty much every detail of the story wrong. Generation Z is being forced to confront the fact that it can run, but it can't hide from its relentless pursuit of trends, she continues. According to Hannah, we don't have an inherent desire to get fit. We're brainwashed iPad babies, slaves to a mysterious Orwellian overlord, and who does she blame? Influencers, obviously. No nuance as to which influencers, just that social media and running influencers are to blame. I find this kind of funny because I don't think Hannah realizes that A, most people are making running content that's less educational and more personal, i.e. the end goal is explaining why they run rather than how they run, and B, there are literal running experts who create content in droves and are exceptionally helpful for amateur runners that want to up their game. While the cause of the running epidemic is social media, Hannah explains that the result is Gen Z destroying their bodies. She hammers home this point by listing literally every permutation of running injury Gen Zs are turning up to physiotherapists' offices with. I assume, again, to desperately fill out her word count. But here's the twist. Hannah actually makes a fair point about injuries. Gen Z is making more physio appointments, but what she completely leaves out, and what the actual data proves, is what Gen Z isn't doing instead. And when you look at the alternative to having a nice job, her argument looks utterly demented. As this article by Runner's World, which came out after I wrote this video and directly responds to Hannah's article, suggests, running this much is hurting our bodies in ways previous generations generally didn't need to contend with. Didn't with running, that is. Studies have shown that conditions relating to drinking, drug use, and smoking have cratered for Gen Zs in comparison to previous generations. An incredible statistic from a CDC survey on smoking found that by high school age, 28.5% of millennials had smoked cigarettes in the last 30 days, whereas only 3.8% of Gen Zs said the same. I will note a correlation between a reduction in us drinking, smoking, and racking slugs of Mandy with us having practically zero disposable income, but correlation and causation are not the same thing.
Because if I'm not incredibly wealthy, what's even the point?
My point here is that whilst yes, Gen Z are rocking up to physiotherapist appointments more often, the last time I checked, lung cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, and acute accidental overdose had slightly higher mortality rates than shin splints. With that out of the way, let's talk about Hannah's golden era, the 1970s. She claims that back then, running was a noble pursuit to heal middle-aged men's hearts, not for internet clout. But if you actually look at the numbers from the 70s boom compared to today, her entire generational comparison completely falls apart. Now, I assume Hannah's talking about the running boom that occurred in the US because that's where it happened in large part. In the 70s, 11% of the population considered themselves runners. In 2026, around 15% of the population do. I'm finding it hard to believe that in the 50 years since the 1970s, with only a proportional increase of 4% in runners, the composition of the sport has completely changed to 20-somethings alone. Because if not, and that's a pretty flipping big claim, Hannah, that means that the constituents of your generation are also running in spite of their health, and more than likely because they're following trends. Anecdotally, I have to agree. Most of the posts I see on Strava are from mid-40 to mid-60-year-old men clocking serious mileage to, I assume, avoid having to see their families. This presents the reality that the current demographic of runners is far more complicated than simply gender-fluid 20-somethings clogging the arterial pathways of Hyde Park when Hannah wants to take her dog for a walk.
The dog is a blocker.
Perhaps the reason running is popular now is the same reason it's always been popular. Because human beings have been hardwired to run from the outset of our evolution. Endurance running allowed us to outlast faster prey in extreme heat so as to kill, eat, and continue the species. We enjoy it now because we were, in the words of Bruce Springsteen, born to run. Allow me to issue a small public health warning to younger readers here, Hannah continues. Were you to spend more time reading, less time straining against your own PB, brackets, the much vaunted personal best, you'd know that the original marathon runner died, his 25-mile schlep from Marathon to Athens proving fatal. As an aside, I assume she clarifies the meaning of PB because her morbidly obese readership would interpret it as peanut butter. By invoking the ultimate historical cautionary tale, the guy who invented the marathon and died, Hannah patronizes us using a classical with a capital C mic drop. Except for the small detail that she gets the history completely wrong. This passage is perhaps one of the most egregious in the entire piece. Not only is it patronizing and smug, it's also wrong. Were you to spend more time reading and less time writing half-remembered bollocks you learnt at school in the 1700s, Hannah, you'd know that the marathon myth was more than likely a romantic invention of a writer active nearly 400 years after it happened. That the messenger Phidippides died after running from Marathon to Athens is the least accurate part of the story. Actual accounts suggest that he instead ran from Athens to Sparta, then back to Athens, then possibly fought in the Battle of Marathon, covering a total distance of 500 kilometers, otherwise known as the distance I feel like I'm doing when I run a 10k. Not quite the same as a 25-year-old running the Skellingthorpe Marathon in 4 hours 16 minutes to feel like they've earned enough calories to eat a 4-cheese pizza. Hannah then moves on to tackle the financial burden of running. She merges several different sectors of the health and fitness space into an uncertain list of terminology she's seen on Twitter. Protein addiction, constant electrolyte usage, fitness streaks, and explosive routines are all at the mercy of her vast intellect. She moves on to lambast the supposedly expensive things Gen Z buy to supplement their running.
I'll give you $500 for it.
And of course, there are many extortionate accoutrements. Strava app, an Aura ring to record your efforts, smugly omnipresent water bottles, and permanently sported athleisure. I follow a Reddit page called r/writing circle jerk, and one of the jokes on there surrounds overwriting. For example, instead of writing his green eyes widened in surprise, you instead write his emerald orbs broadened in astonishment. It's a pretty funny gag and is in a simple way trying to say, the more intelligent you try to sound, the more incredibly flipping stupid you appear. So let's break this down. Firstly, it's called Strava, or if you're being really weird, the Strava app, and as anyone who's ever used Strava would know, it's completely free unless you want to pay for an optional subscription that adds a few frankly useless features. Why she's included it in a list of expensive things, I do not know. Moving on, the worst thing about this passage is Hannah's hatred of smugly omnipresent water bottles. You know that you're reaching when you take aim at an object people use to carry the literal elixir of all life on Earth, the thing we die imminently without, water. Those damn Gen Zs with their smugly omnipresent plates with food on. Why don't you just eat rice out of your cupped hands like the rest of us? Hannah babes, no idea how much you got paid for this dross, but I'm gonna cut my dick kick off. Although I do agree with you about Oura rings, I don't even know how you say it. She makes fun of people for wearing exercise gear when they exercise, and exercise gear for revealing Gen Z's back fat and cellulite, which apparently we all have. Personally, I find back fat sensual, and my favourite 70s proto-funk group is the Fatback Band. To be honest, this passage says more about Hannah's discomfort with herself and her aging body than anything else. And how Hannah feels about herself is about to get a whole lot messier, because we're getting to the part where the mask drops and she tells us explicitly why she wrote the article, and it is profoundly hypocritical.
I'm an all-or-nothing person. I find moderation tedious in the extreme, so for me it's got to be none.
Hannah rounds out her article with a show of complete duplicity. I hesitate to deploy myself as an example here, an individual who has never knowingly exercised. However, at 55, I am neither hugely fit nor hugely unfit, just sort of fine. And with this line, we come to realise that this is an old man yells at clouds situation.
Who's laughing now?
Now, it isn't the first time in human history that someone's weighed in on something they have no idea about.
You are so learned.
Learned, son. It's pronounced learned.
But it stands out to me here because it shows us that the motivation for this article is just spite. The core conceit of Hannah's article appears to be that Gen Z are doing themselves in with running, where back in her day, I quote, youthful injuries were all drink-inspired, a 90s nihilism that was, at least, a blast. Hannah believes that her generation's righteous pursuit of hedonism is the only virtuous course of action for young people because it leads to a personality? Two things on this. People whose personalities are alcohol and partying are some of the most boring goons on the planet. And secondly, Hannah herself doesn't even believe this, as evinced by the scores of writing and speaking she's done on how alcohol ruined her life and why she's been sober for 12 years. In another interview, she talks about how alcoholism tragically killed her father. So not only does she not have any personal perspective on why people run, she also doesn't believe the secondary principle of her article that we should all stop being so bloody healthy and get back to partying and drinking like in the good old days. It's a piece of writing that can be summed up in a few words. I hate young people because I'm not one of them. We all die one day, Hannah, and it's our choice as to whether we dive gracefully into the earth, wishing the joys of youth upon our progeny, or get lowered into our caskets, shrieking for the blood of those with nothing more than the benefit of time. Thanks for watching.